The first class that I want to show you is my registration class. This class is responsible for storing the user's details and validating them before registration is complete. At the top of the class, I have 5 private variables: first name, last name, username, password, and cell phone number. These store the details that the user enters when they register. Below that, I have a construct that takes all 5 of these values and assign them to the variables. The first method is called check username. This method checks 2 things. The first, it checks that the username contains an underscore, and the second, it checks that the username is no more than 5 characters long. If both conditions are met, it returns true, otherwise it returns false. The second method is called check password complexity. The method checks that the password meets 4 requirements. It must be at least 8 characters long, it must contain a capital letter, it must contain a number, and it must contain a special character like an exclamation mark. I used a loop to go through each character in the password and check these conditions. All 4 are met and the methods are true. If all 4 are met and the methods are true, otherwise it returns false. The third method is called check cell phone number. This method uses a regular expression to check that the cell phone number starts with the South African International Code, which is +27, and that the total length is correct. If the number matches the pattern, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. The fourth method is called register user. This method calls all 3 of the check methods. If the username check fails, it returns the username error message. If the password check fails, it returns the password error message. If both pass, it returns the welcome message with the user's first and last name. The second class is my login class. This class is responsible for authenticating the user when they try to log in after registering. It has 3 private variables: entered username, entered password, and the registration called registered user. The registration object holds all the details that were saved during registration. The first method is called login user. This method compares the username and the password that the user types at login against the username and password that was stored during registration. If the match is true, it returns true. If they don't match, it returns false. The second method is called return login status. This method calls login user, and based on the result, it returns the appropriate message. If login is successful, it returns a welcome message with the user's first and last name. If login fails, it returns a message saying the username or password is incorrect and asking the user to try again. The third class is my chat app registration class. This is the main class. It is the only file that actually runs the program. It contains the main method, which is where Java starts executing the code. This class uses a scanner to read input from the user in the console. It asks the user to enter the username first and use a while loop to keep asking until the username is correctly input. Once the username is accepted, it shows a success message. It then asks for the password and again uses a while loop to keep asking until the password meets the standards and the conditions that were set for the password. If that condition is not met, it continues to ask the user to input the correct password, and if the user eventually inputs the correct password, it will show a successful message. It then asks for the cell phone number and it validates it the same way, showing a success or error message depending on whether the number is correctly formatted. After all three fields are validated, it asks for the user's first and last name and creates a registration object with all the details. It then moves on to the login section where it takes the user to enter their name and password again. It creates a login object and calls the return login status method, which displays the appropriate login message. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how my project runs. As you can see, it's asking for the user to enter their username, and it states that the user should have an underscore and a maximum of 5 characters. I have input my username. As we can see, it states username successfully captured because the username follows all the conditions that were listed. Next, it's going to ask the user to enter their password, and it shows the user the instructions that they have to follow, which are: the password must be 8 characters, contain a capital letter, a number, and a special character. As you can see, I have done exactly what the code is asking me to do. And right after that, we have password successfully captured because the user has correctly input the required passwords. Next, we will be entering the cell phone number, and there are instructions for the user to follow, which are phone number must include international code and an example of what that international code and phone number should consist of. As you can see, it states cell phone number successfully captured, and right after that we have enter first name. The user will enter their first name and their last name. As you can see, everything has been input correctly. It says, "Welcome Tariro Kwesu. It is great to see you," meaning that the registration process was a success. And now we are moving on to the login. We will be inputting our username to log in. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how my program runs and what the user would be doing in the system. So over here we have chat app registration. This is the registration process. I've already filled in some of the information to make it easier. First we have enter username and the conditions that have to be met in order for the username to be successfully captured. So the username should contain an underscore and a maximum of 5 characters. I have input my username and it states username successfully captured, meaning that the conditions were met and it was returned as true. Next we have the password and the user should input the password. The condition for the passwords are: password must be at least 8 characters, contain a capital letter, a number, and special characters. I have entered my password with all the correct conditions and it states password successfully captured. After that, the user will be asked to enter a cell phone number with the conditions that it should include a international code and must be 9 numbers after the international code. So I have done that and it states cell phone number successfully captured, meaning that all the conditions were met. Next, we now have the first name and last name. I have entered that and that is the process for the registration system. It then states after that, welcome Tari Rugweso, it is great to see you, meaning that the registration process is complete. Next, we will be doing the login. After the username has entered, the user has entered the username and the password, it will show welcome Tadrugo, so it is great to see you again. This is the registration and the login complete. And now I will show you the unit test. I right click on registration test.java and click test file. You can see at the bottom of the screen the results show tests run is equal to 12, failures are 0, errors are 0, skipped are 0, all tests are passed. And these tests cover every scenario required by the assignment. The correct and incorrect username, correct and incorrect password, correct and incorrect cell number, successful and failed login. Each test uses either assert equal to check the exact message returned or assert true and assert false to check the Boolean values returned by each method.